I am Dave. Welcome to the Dave Takes It On news desk. Items this week include the first results from Q1 2025 EV sales around the UK and Europe, and there are definitely some shock entries here. Legacy autos struggle with Mercedes and Stellantis both seeing huge drops in sale. While back home, Labour relaxes the EV mandate rules in response to tariffs. Is this the real reason? Well, we also introduce our response to viewer comments that we've received featuring the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. We'll take a quick trip around the EV public charging scene, who's doing what and where, and we will announce our new Fantasy EV virtual stock portfolio. Finally, we're going to take a quick fire glance at social media to see who is doing or saying what and why about whom. Well, let's get into the first item. Q1 2025 initial results are in, and here in the UK, EV new car registrations have surged. In March, total new car sales were up by 12.4%, and EVs made up the bulk of that growth with 43.2% growth compared to the same period 2024. Petrol saw a small decline, and diesel continued its plummet with another 10% drop year on year. Both fossil fuels saw a decline in market share, petrol down from 56.6% last year to 49% this year, and diesel likewise drops from 6.9% to 5.8%. Just how much longer will it be before diesel just drops off the list altogether? BEV new car sales now represent 1 in 5 new cars sold in the UK, and all three sectors, that's the hybrids, the plug-in hybrids and the BEVs, saw remarkable growth in March, 27.7%, 37.9% and 43.23% growth respectively. And a look at year to date compared to the same period in 2024, we see no sign of any slowdown. HEVs up by a slightly slower rate of 18.7%, PHEVs slightly slower rise at 26.1%, B growth almost unchanged at 42.6%. As always, there are winners and losers. In a market where it's a dream to grow sales by 10% a year, a number of e-makers stand out. BYD 625%, Alfa Romeo 125%, Cupra 44%, Genesis 92%, Jeep 64%, Mazda 47%, Peugeot 33%, Polestar 184%, Skoda 22%, Volvo 39%. Tremendous effort. VW at 28% merit a special mention with the huge success of their ID.7. Total failure in America, brilliant over here. Well, in buying trends, private sales saw a nice leap in March, up 14.5% compared to 2024, while fleet sales were up by less, 11%. Business just about unchanged, a 0.3% drop. Year to date shows a similar trend, private up 9.5%, fleet up 4.6%, business not doing much, 0.6% growth. Well, for an industry being slammed by tariffs and increases in vehicle tax and zero-emission mandates, it's growing remarkably well. It's forecast to continue that growth throughout 2025. Overall, BEV is expected to rise this year 21%, PHEVs 18%, HEVs 14%, while petrol is forecast to continue its decline, dropping 11% forecast this year, diesel by 5%. Well, broadening out into Europe, we see a remarkable result that the media must be cursing. Despite the headlines and the fires and the vandalism, best-selling EV in Europe for Q1 2025 was the Tesla Model Y, the old version. Second was a great effort by VW with the ID.7, as mentioned, and third was the Tesla Model 3. That's the refresh model. Well, it seems that news of Tesla's demise is somewhat premature, particularly as this drop was predicted because most of the factories were shut down for several weeks for refitting to make the new Model Y refresh. On the list, I see no other automaker which shut down their factories for several weeks. Well done to VW overall for the 13.6% of the European market, puts them in number one place. Tesla came second with 9%. We don't yet have enough new EV sales figures for the world to present an accurate representative picture, but early indications are that EVs worldwide could enjoy a really great year. We're moving on to the legacy auto and the sorry state they've got themselves into, and that is even before we mention tariffs. Amongst a plethora of legacy auto companies that seem to be vying for the title of the first of the old-timers to go bust, Mercedes is particularly struggling, and the cause is not hard to see. They focused on the Chinese market very early on and were early adopters of joint ventures in China, making their cars for the local market. As recently as 5 years ago, the Chinese imported, as a country, 64% of its new vehicles from foreign manufacturers around the world. Today, that's more than halved, and it's in fact down to 31%. Legacy Auto, with their major market, China, now shutting down, has few places left to sell ICE vehicles to. The Chinese buying public prefer locally made EVs to foreign ones, simply because they're so much better. They're more advanced. Mercedes, for example, is still installing NMC batteries with their history of trouble and fires. Well, China's gone through that, past the LFP, and they're now onto silicon carbon or solid state. Well, the ICE market is collapsing. This I forecast over a year ago when I said that EV sales will not cause the collapse of the ICE car market. People will simply stop buying them. Well, that's now evident. So if people can't afford, or they're not ready for, or if the charging infrastructure is not right for them for getting an EV, they're just going to keep their old ICE car for that few years longer and wait for the EVs to catch up. They're not buying an EV, but neither are they buying ICE. ICE sales are down, EV sales are up. The market has spoken. Well, Mercedes has now reported declining sales for 7 consecutive quarters. Stellantis are likely to follow with yet another quarter with a more than 10% drop in new car sales. While I can understand all the comments I receive about ICE being the future, the ICE market is shrinking. Some of the legacy auto business models seem to have badly misjudged the progress of EVs. BYD, meanwhile, just grows from strength to strength, with overall sales up 60%, of which EVs grew 39%. How many times do I need to tell them that the ICE market is collapsing? Base your company on selling the same number of new cars at the same profit level this year, and you'll be fighting over the scraps with so many others. Porsche might recently have reported that they will make ICE cars after 2035, but who do they think will buy them? We don't have the same sort of car industry that we used to, but we still have one, and it is the largest export we have in the UK. So with the ICE new car market already declining, petrol down 7%, diesel 10%, the arrival of tariffs is about to turn a molehill into a mountain range. We have auto manufacturing and assembly in the UK. Think Jaguar, Land Rover, BMW Minis, Aston Martin, Vauxhall, Rolls-Royce, Lotus and Caterham, quite a collection. Of these, the biggest money earners are currently big exporter to the States. With 25% tariffs already just in place at the time of making this video, and fading hopes of Sir Keir Starmer negotiating his way out of them, he has had to react. Well, the actual mandated target for 2025 is 28%, but Labour's given them a bit more wiggle room recently with being able to count future sales and other benefits. See, as they ramp up EV production and as EV sales climb, they're likely to exceed those targets as they approach 2030. So in reality, these changes mean they will only need to reach around 23% of EVs this year, with various means for getting the difference, and the penalties for missing are now watered down too. Changes are minimum, being really to benefit pure HEVs, those that cannot plug in. With a good market share, these have been allowed to continue past 2030 and now can sell until 2035. It is a good approach alongside continued assistance for encouraging EV adoption and other support for the auto industry. It should leave us with the same result by 2035, just have a slower start and a faster final phase of the mandate. By 2035, any cars that still burn fossil fuel in any way, even brand new EVs with range extenders, will cease to be sold. full stop. We do get a huge number of comments and cannot answer them all, but we do read as many as we can for two reasons. First, we'd like to see what the viewers like and dislike about the videos we make. But mainly it's to see how much media influence rubbish is still out there. Well, here we present the good. And I had to just show this one, didn't I? Thank you, US average guy. No, but really, the proper one is thank you to Albert for your comments on Chinese cars and tariffs. Somebody who thinks we don't impose tariffs in the UK, Chinese cars are okay, so welcome them in as they might be cheaper in the UK. What a lovely open mind. For the bad, we still have people who have EV negativity built in, ingrained. We launched a video recently about Preston EV ambulance fast response car. And the opening question I asked the very friendly and cooperative driver was, have you ever run out of charge or ever not been able to respond? He assured me, no, never, not even got anywhere near close. Unlike an ambulance, the fast response cars spend much of their shift parked up waiting for the call. They do not go out on every call. That parking spot for this crew I talked to is always the car park of the Queen's Shopping Centre in Preston, where there are 8 Osprey chargers. He said he stopped here when he drove petrol, and he still stops here with the EV. It's just now when he stops, he plugs in. He's never even been close to running out of battery, even when, on many occasions, he picks up the car from the previous crew and the battery is already really low. In Preston, most fast response car journeys are literally just a handful of miles. Now here we have a typical response from Joe. No, it's not him. It's his sister-in-law he talks about, of course. When he told her, the response, presumably without seeing the video herself, was it wouldn't work. She works in London. She says her car has to carry so much equipment it wouldn't be viable. Well, the EV here was the Kia EV6, which is a huge car with a massive boot. It's far bigger than most ICE cars. Then, she says, they do a 12-hour shift and is convinced the car cannot last. But immediately goes on to say she has periods of several hours waiting for calls. Well, a Kia EV6 long range with full battery can easily cover 250 miles, probably well over 300 miles in urban driving. Just how far does she drive in a night? My Preston driver stated he covers less than 100 miles in a shift, always, occasionally less than 80. I cannot see London fast response car doing a lot more, not with sitting around for hours at a time. Anyway, this is just blind prejudice, a mindset that prevails despite her hearing that another driver of a fast response ambulance car copes perfectly well. Or maybe he didn't tell his sister-in-law that bit. We still have some work to do. Well, for the ugly, we do get the haters who come out with such drivel and lies. It does make me wonder, do they actually truly believe this drivel? Or are they just brainwashed into just repeating, regurgitating in the hope it will have some effect? What do they hope to achieve? See, here we have a typical comment from Bat Fastardo, going into great detail but lacking any facts or sources. No sales, can't sell them, dealers won't want them, loads of pre-registered, dumping them in the auctions. He just misses out on the most important detail of all. The latest sales figures for EVs, both new and used, shows new EV sales are up 43%, used EV sales, I've only got figures for 24, but they're up 52% year on year. So my standard response is to thank them for the view, thank you for the comment, but ask, have you ever heard of Google? Oh, this is on Google. Or better still, I recommend they go and get a test drive in an EV. Now to EV charging news. Well, the EV public charging network is increasing in size every day. It's now finally fit for purpose, in my opinion. There will be areas where more is needed, as indeed there is even with the mobile phone network coverage. They've had much longer to get that one right, and it still isn't. Well, first news comes from Patreon member Stephen, who recently charged a B.EV, and he found the price he paid, 56p, was far less than the advertised price. No further details as to why, but we are meeting up with B.EV next week, so we've got a few questions for them. We'll try and find out. Next is a strange email I received. Incredibly little detail, but just a few photos, which shows Kempower chargers not in traditional orange and grey colours. Normally these are either 150 or 300 kilowatt, but these were priced at 39p. Well, research needed here, and I will report back as to who they are. It's AW Energy, where they are, and as much else as I can find out. Finally, Osprey Charging, who regularly get words from me about their price of 79p when all about are cutting theirs. They finally made a move. They've increased their prices. They're up from 79p to 82p. It's a rise of about 5%. Temporarily speechless, but that won't last. Dave's social media quickfire. Social media has turned largely into a very divided, polarised place. Many people just simply stopped using it. But for the EV world, many companies do post news items here, which are of terrific interest. They are also often breaking news items. Well, this item was one that caught my attention from Tesla. They're forever delaying the launch of full self-driving, and many say they never will. But behind the scenes, it's already fully operational. As the new cars roll off the production line, a driver has to get in each one and drive the 1 or 2 miles to the dockside for loading onto the ships for those cars being exported. Those drivers then get picked up by a minibus, wait till a group of them, and then they're all taken back to the factory to do the next one. I'm well aware of this because my father was one such driver. He worked with Ford Hale Wood, working for Silcock and Colling, and did exactly the same in the 70s before he switched on to transporters. But you see, things have changed. The cars still come off the production lines, and they just now switch into FSD mode, full self-driving. That drive is now fully autonomous, and they drive through traffic, pedestrians, and construction vehicles. It's not an easy run. I find it fascinating to see a long line of cars all in transit with nobody in the driver's seat, and at the other end they all get into neat rows for going on board the ship. Fabulous. Well, that would have done my dad out of a job in the old days, but the cost saving of having dozens or hundreds of drivers just doing those short runs multiple times a day must make a difference to the overall profit. That's progress. I think the next stage is already in the pipeline. When it leaves the factory for a locally bought car, it'll just drive direct to your home. No having to go into a dealer or showroom to go and collect it. I'm going to close with the launch of our fantasy virtual EV share trading portfolio. Need a new name for that. As a real shareholder, I'm aware that most trading platforms offer the option to trade virtually at no risk to yourself, any money, before you take the plunge. You select a portfolio, and that responds to the market changes as if you had actually bought the shares. But you can never lose anything. You can't lose a single penny, nor indeed can you gain a single penny if you are successful. I'm going to be starting up the Dave Takes It On Fantasy Virtual EV Share Portfolio. Any suggestions for a new name, let me know. I'm going to show the progress each week in the Friday news desk. I will select an initial portfolio and make changes as the market moves throughout this year. Viewers can join in one or two ways. First, you can offer your advice as to what I should buy and sell, and when and why, to help my virtual portfolio become more successful. Second, you can start your own virtual portfolio independently, run it as a challenge. Can you beat me? I'm going to be setting up the portfolio this week and setting the parameters such as how much your virtual money you can invest to start it off, what types of company you can invest it in. To get you going, what type of companies, these will all be publicly traded shares available in the UK, and they must concentrate in one way or another directly with EVs and all things connected, battery companies, software or EV manufacturers. It will not get involved in Bitcoin or anything similar in any way whatsoever. There will be no advice given by me. I'm not qualified in any way to give you proper share advice. This is purely for fun, but with a fantasy competitive element thrown in. If you have ideas for the shares I should include in my initial portfolio, leave your comments down below. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Dave.